Hello, welcome to the marketplace. Coming up, 3 independent power plants off the national grid, with 6 more threatening to go off by the end of June, as the IPPs warn only significant payment of their $1.4 billion debt will get them to back down on threats to cut power supply. The finance minister has requested an emergency meeting with the IPPs. Also coming up, Zambia strikes a deal to restructure $6.3 billion in debt owed to other governments, including China, marking a long-awaited breakthrough for indebted nations like Ghana that have faced lengthy negotiations with creditors. Also coming up, Register of Companies Jemima Wari reveals payment of locked-up funds of Black Shield Fund Management customers, formerly Gold Coast, cannot be made unless a liquidation order is secured from the courts.
The owners of Black Shield are fighting the official liquidator in court. They do not want to be liquidated. And the bailout package was such that we can only issue out that package to creditors or investors who invested in the fund management companies, if only we get the official liquidation order.
More on this and other stories coming up on the marketplace. To stay with us. My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for staying with us. Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has requested an emergency meeting with the independent power producers over their decision to cut power supply to the national grid by the 1st of July. Government is said to owe these producers $2 billion as of May this year, but the IPPs are demanding a settlement of about 30% of the debt by the end of the month before continuing operations. There's more in this report.
Joy Business understand that the finance minister sent a request to the independent power producers yesterday for the emergency meeting. Immediately received a letter from the IPPs reminding him that they cannot guarantee continued generation of electricity operations from July 1 if government fails to honor 30% of the total debt. We further learned that the minister requested to meet the IPPs individually, but the IPPs are said not to be ready to agree on any terms until the government settled them part of the debt. The IPPs, in a reminder, urged government to prioritize payment of the outstanding arrears owed to EarTH members to enable them cover critical operational costs required to continue operations and pay overdue debt service.
And while we are getting indication that 3 independent power plants are off the national grid, with 6 more threatening to go off by the end of June, as the IPPs warn only significant payment of their $1.4 billion debt will get them to back down. Dennis Chiyiro is Senior Programs Officer at the Natural Resource Governance Institute, and he joins us on Zoom to discuss this. Grateful you could join us, Dennis. How should the government approach the discussion with the IPPs?
Thank you very much, Daryl, and thanks to your viewers. We must first of all recognize that this issue of power sector indebtedness has been long in coming, and governments over the years have not shown enough commitment to resolve the matter. So first of all, in an engagement with the independent power producers, government must first recognize that these are business people and they have objectives, basically to break even and make profit. And so if you are approaching them with any proposal for restructuring, you must first of all recognize the cost structure of these IPPs, what it takes to produce the power that we offtake from these IPPs. You must be empathetic to the realities of the times. And just to cite an example, the depreciation of the Ghana cedi alone has been a significant contributor to some of these costs that have accumulated over the years. And government must recognize and admit its own failures over the years and then show commitment to resolving some of these challenges.
The IPPs have been trying to get issues concerning their debt settled for months now. Like you point out, now we're hearing government may want to restructure debts it owes them. Do you see them reaching a compromise once this emergency meeting gets underway?
Now, for me, I think there can be a compromise depending on the approach that government adopts. As I indicated in my previous response, first of all, government must realize that they have been part of the situation that the IPPs have been in. In fact, government has been the major contributor. The inefficiencies in state-owned enterprises has been one of the major causes, and we've seen a lot of state-owned enterprise inefficiencies that have contributed to some of these debts. So in the meantime, government must first of all acknowledge some of these inefficiencies in the sector. It must make concrete proposals to resolve some of these inefficiencies and not just try to box the IPPs into a corner to get them to agree. And then government goes back to business as usual and continue accumulating these debts. You must first also know that these debts are not going to go away anytime soon. These are contracts that are running, and the debt keeps accumulating as the days go by. And so there must be concrete steps to address the underlying issues of inefficiencies with SOEs and the factors that are contributing to the cost buildup of these IPPs. And if government approaches it that way, I believe the IPPs would listen.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about concrete steps to avoid these debts from mounting. I'm just interested in knowing what else can be done to avoid the situation where we are in right now, where we are indebted to the IPPs.
A number of steps can be taken. Remember that most of these IPPs got into these contracts by non-competitive means, sole sourcing. I think one of the first steps that government can take is to open up procurements within the power sector. We should not have the situation where government just goes to negotiate with one IPP here or there and then get the country committed. We must open up the power sector to competitive bidding, and not just the power sector, but the entire energy sector. You've heard CSOs and other experts talk about the need to open up, even in the petroleum sector. The recent example is Tema Oil Refinery. Torenco was procured by sole sourcing. And so this sole sourcing business that government is engaged in and that which it justifies every now and then is one of the issues that government can immediately tackle. Going forward, government must also tackle the issue of political patronage. These state-owned enterprises must be seen as business, and they must operate as businesses. The case where government gets politicians involved in the running of these state-owned enterprises and use them as piggy banks, basically using them to make money for individuals close to power, must stop. These are corporate entities and they must run efficiently. Governance structures must be respected, including the procurement processes for some of these SOEs. And so for me, going forward, that should be the direction that government must take. Government must also avoid the case where it over-relies on the gas sector. What happens to renewable energy investments? And just to cite as an example, government's own energy transition framework sets 20% target up to 2070 for renewable energy penetration. That for me is unthinkable. If government intends to ensure efficiency in the power sector, we must diversify. We must ensure that the energy mix is diversified enough to be able to feed us realistic power at reasonable cost and ensure that all of us benefit from these changes that are occurring in the energy sector. We must take energy transition quite seriously, and investments in the renewable sector must also be enhanced.
What will be the implications if the IPPs make good on their threat if no agreement is reached? Worst case scenario, what should we expect? Already we are told that some power plants have gone off, 3 of them.
I mean, we must know that the IPPs within the energy sector account for about over 30% of our energy supply. The immediate effect is doomsday, and we must not mince words on that. We are going to have a crisis, and we must realize that energy crisis has cost this country over the years. Estimates are that over 3% of our GDP has been lost to power crisis alone, and we somehow underestimate the impact of some of these crises on businesses and households. So the immediate effect is definitely doomsday, but also the long-term effect is that it will have impact on our fiscal situation and our economic activities more generally. And to the household level, the individual level, there will be impact on households, and people will suffer the effects of some of these actions of government.
Can we do without the IPPs? Can we reach a place where we are less dependent on them?
We can, but not in the short term. There must be, and that is where I indicated that we must have a plan to phase out some of these gas-dependent IPPs and inject renewable energy into the system. The key word here is sort of diversifying the energy mix, ensuring that we don't depend entirely on one source of energy. It is just very important, and we must emphasize that point.
All right. I appreciate your time and your insights. Dennis Jerry, Senior Program Officer, NRGI, thank you so much for joining us for this discussion. Well, let's turn to another story of following for you. Zambia has struck a deal to restructure $6.3 billion in debt owed other governments, including China, marking a long-awaited breakthrough for indebted nations around the world that have faced lengthy negotiations with creditors. Zambia in 2020 became the first African country to default on its sovereign debt during the COVID-19 pandemic and struggled since then in protracted discussions to agree a deal. A statement from the IMF said, quote, "This agreement paves the way for the completion of the first review of Zambia's 3-year extended credit facility arrangement." Is it a sign of what Ghana should expect? Joining us on Zoom, economist Professor Lord Mensah. Thank you for your time. Certainly some exciting news for Zambia. After an achingly slow process, it took years. Is that what Ghana should expect as well?
Well, the sluggishness of the process, may come as a result of, two different things. It could be, the kind of debt that, Zambia had as a mix. It could also be that looking at the African terrain, the default of sovereign debt was not that rampant, or maybe this is the first time. And as a result of that, some framework and some mechanisms need to be developed, to establish how, Africans' debt defaults are dealt with. So effectively, it could be either way that caused, the delay. But it is a good news, for China, and it's also a good news for Ghana because a framework has been established, and once you have that kind of creditor coordination for particular, debt default, from where I sit, this is going to speed up, Ghana's, negotiations when it comes to our external debt.
Well, at the beginning of this month, we reported that Ghana had sent a debt restructuring proposal to creditors, one that is not legally binding and seen as a first step in negotiations. We've not heard anything yet, but what would the creditors, the guys at the other side, be looking out for in our working proposal?
Yeah, of course, they may have look at the prospects of the country and ability of the country to pay for whatever extended debt that we propose to them. And so if your debt is about 7 years and we're extending it to 14 years, obviously you should be able to ascertain or determine whether the country will be able to pay, your debt sustainably for the 14 years. Of course, you are doing your extending from relatively short term to long term. So you have to look at the debt service capacity of the country, and that will determine whether they'll be able to pay or not. So effectively, those are the things, a typical investor who has his investment getting into default will be looking out for.
And Reuters reports that the U.S. had previously accused China, Zambia's biggest creditor, of dragging its feet in talks. Beijing has denied that, but China has given us commitment to restructure debts. We owe them $1.9 billion. What terms do you think China will lay before us? And are they the biggest hurdle we must cross?
Yeah, of course. If you look at the debt composition, China is hold up as a single, bilateral, all the, European debts, together. That is the Paris Club debt. So definitely China is a force to reckon. But then as to whether what China will require in terms of the restructuring, I think China is going to conform to what the Paris Club will come in for. Because if you look at the committee that is formed, especially for that of Zambia, you could see China is the co-chair of the the committee. So if you are co-chair and there's a required, you may have to conform to what the majority of the creditors will hold up to. So effectively, in terms of numbers, China may be a small, maybe one country, but when you split our debt, composition among the Paris Club and then that of China, China is a force to reckon, and as a result of that, I don't think they will come in with anything different from what the Paris Club will lay before us.
We have some 30 seconds. How much time can we afford? Can we secure an agreement faster than Zambia did?
Yes, we're going to secure an agreement, faster than Zambia did. At least Zambia's one has we kind of new. I mean, to the investment and the Eurobond market. And so if the Zambia one has created that kind of precedent, obviously that is going to be a stepping stone. And so we are going to get our debt restructured, external debt restructured more quicker than what Zambia got.
Professor Lord Mensah, thank you so much for your... Yes, can you hear me? Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate your perspective to this news as Zambia has struck a deal on debt restructuring. Now, Register of Companies, Jemima Owari, has revealed that payment of locked-up funds of Black Shield Fund Management customers, formerly Gold Coast, cannot be made unless it secures liquidation order from the courts. The customers picketed the premises of the Securities and Exchange Commission last month, demanding full payment of their funds. But speaking on PM Express Business Edition, Owari said all is being done to ensure that customers receive their funds.
With Black Shield, the only issue is it is still in court.
Why have we kept so long?
Yes, because the owners of Black Shield are fighting the official liquidator in court. They do not want to be liquidated. And the bailout package was such that we can only issue out that package to creditors or investors who invested in the fund management companies, if only we get the official liquidation order. And we still have not got the official liquidation order. Why haven't you got it? I mean, it's still in court. It's a back and forth. The court processes. We petitioned the court based on the directive from Securities and Exchange Commission that Black Shield was not able to pay its creditors as it fell due. And that is the stand-up on which we went. And truly, up till now, they've not been able to pay all these investors who were, picketing at the Securities and Exchange Commission. And of course, the government wanted to ensure that the capital market was not, shaken. I was with you at that time. That's why they brought about the bailout package, scheme. So many of those fund management companies that I was able to, operate with, we had liquidation orders before I could call for the creditors meeting. I had all those meetings, and we had a whole plan in place of how they could get their monies. And I was able to pay tier 1 cash, and tier 2 is now with GCB Capital. So that aspect is gone. I just have Black Shield remaining because the courts have not been able to give the official liquidator the order to liquidate it. So when they go and picket at SEC, it's not really going to help. And even, the point is, I need the liquidation order to kickstart the bailout package.
Some exciting news. You can complete your business registration with issue certificate within an hour from the first quarter of next year. The Register of Companies is set to roll out a new system from next year that should fully automate its entire operations. Listen to Jemima Owari again.
So, but with the current system that we have, if only you also comply with our requirements. Because some will come and haven't even filled the forms. Some will come and they don't have a digital address. Some will come, they don't have an NIA card. So the key thing is, let's start counting from the time you complete all the requirements. And then we can say confidently that within a day, we can give you the business registration certificate. The issue in reality, though, is that the current software has challenges. And nobody denies that fact. And so you could come in and do everything within the day, but you won't get it within the day because possibly the system has shut down for one reason or the other, or one of the users of the system, maybe the lawyer or the company inspector, does not approve it within the time they're supposed to approve it because there are so many other things that are being done. And that is why we are now going to move a step further and come up with a new software. We are trusting God before the end of this year, but looking at June is a bit short to the end of the year. Early of next year, 2024, we are coming up with a new software which would enable you to do everything online. You would not need to walk into our offices with paper, as currently people are walking in and queuing at the bank to pay and scan and all those things. It will be a thing of the past.
Registrar of Companies Jemima Owari, now president of the Ghana Cooperative Pharmacists Credit Union Limited, Richard Ochre Champong, has indicated that contrary to the losses faced by many institutions and organizations in the last year due to the economic crisis, the credit union recorded a marginal growth in assets. According to him, this was as a result of some innovative strategies adopted in the course of the operations. He was speaking at the 36th Annual General Meeting of the credit union.
The Ghana Cooperative Pharmacists Credit Union recorded a 12.17% increase in its assets in the past year. At the union's annual general meeting, President of the credit union, Richard Ochre Champong, said adopting certain innovations and strategies helped the union to increase its assets even during the economic crisis.
Most of the financial indicators, on the contrary, was very, very positive. We grew in asset size. We grew in our net surplus in the year under review, a year that most people thought 2022 was tough. We introduced technology, a lot of innovations, as you heard in my speech, from telesales department was introduced, business development, marketing department, so that we attempted a shift from the traditional way of running a credit union, which people see as a semi-quasi-susu, association.
Chief Executive of Daryl Finance, Kenneth Thompson, urged the members of the union to do critical risk assessment when investing their money.
How do you create wealth in these turbulent times? At Daryl Finance, we say reality, there are 3 Fs. You can fake it, you can face it, there's another F. You decide. Know the difference between companies that are regulated by the Bank of Ghana and the companies that are regulated by SEC. SEC is the Securities and Exchange Commission. So companies regulated by the Bank of Ghana can say, okay, I'll give you 10% per annum on your investment, say. Companies regulated by SEC are not able to do so. Whatever money you've left after you've decided that your chop money is too small, so you are now cutting out a meal, and it's not that your wife is sitting on the money, save. Save, save, save. For a few reasons, actually. Asset prices are falling. They will fall. Nobody has money. So if you are as fortunate as my young friend here, the president is my good friend of mine, then you can buy assets for the cheap.
The members were urged to improve on their saving culture to help grow the finances of the union.
Now, the Springboard Roadshow Foundation, in partnership with MasterCard Foundation and Limehouse Foundation, has organized the Ghana Grows Program, the 3-year program which aims to expose over 1 million youth to the opportunities available in the agribusiness value chain and technical and vocational sector, will be rolled out across the country in partnership with other organizations. Now, here's what transpired at the last day of the Practical Christianity Hangouts edition of the program.
The last day of the second season of the Practical Christianity Hangout, which partnered the Springboard Roadshow Foundation to roll out the Ghana Grows program saw participants express excitement, describing the program as impactful. The program hosted a series of speakers and mentors who educated the youth on opportunities which exist in the agriculture, technical and vocational, as well as digital sectors. Persons with disability and special needs were not left out, as students of the Demonstration School for the Deaf participated in the program. Speaking on the last day of the session, digital media expert Maximus Ametogo admonished the youth to develop skills which will be relevant in the digital revolution.
So the digital media space is the future. The digital media or the digital space is the future. Every skill you have will be formatted by the digital media innovation or technology. So don't get stuck to the traditional way of doing things, but see how you can treat the skill you have with digital innovations so that it can be relevant in the age to come and in the now.
CEO of Eden Tree Limited, Catherine Krobo Eduse, urged young people not to be deterred by the challenges in the agricultural sector, but rather discover opportunities by developing solutions.
Opportunities stem out of problems, right? When there's a problem, an opportunity is there to do what? To solve the problem. So with the problems in the fruit and vegetable sector, with lack of tomatoes in the country, what is the solution? In my view, the solution is to be able to produce tomatoes needed for Ghana in Ghana. That is the solution.
Executive Director of Springboard Roadshow Foundation, Comfort Okran, explained the objective of the program.
So Springboard is rolling out Ghana Grows, which is a program that targets giving young people opportunities to showcase to young people opportunities that exist in the extended agric and TVET value chain.
All right, that's our program. Thanks for watching, everyone. There is more news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. Professional bodies that fail to register with us will not be recognized. That's according to the Register of Companies. You can also read this story, 150 armored bullion vans ready for use from the 1st of July, Association of Bullion Operators Ghana, following that terrible incident that happened yesterday. That's the marketplace. Thanks for watching. Enjoy your weekend.